This is a bit of a difficult question to answer. And the question dealt with prayer. And I know that this person is currently going through a health crisis. Or I don't know if you call it a health crisis. They're going through a health challenge. And having been with a very important person in my life through a very long, at least what I consider to be long, health challenge, I can understand this question. The question is about how should we pray, or what is effective in prayer? And the individual said that they've kind of given up on prayer in regards to sort of asking for healing or asking for something. And I have to admit, I can relate to that because there came a point in time when, for me, prayer shifted from asking to really just simply wanting to be in a state of presence. And the reason this is a hard question to answer is because for many people, prayer is a comfort. It soothes them. And even if their prayers aren't going to be answered, the fact that they are able to get into prayer, it may, how should I say it? It may save them from being stressed out for 6 months to just being stressed out for the 1 month when everything goes bad. Meaning they might be praying for something and think it's going to work, it's going to work, it's going to work for 6 months. And so they're calm and they're peaceful and they can be appropriate in the situation. But what's going to happen is going to happen anyway. And so when the last month comes around, things go wrong, they wonder, well, gee, I've been praying all this time, why didn't it work? So then they've only got 1 month of pain versus 6 or 7 months of pain. That's a strange way to look at it. Having been friends and am friends with many ministers much older than me who've had a lot of experience as traditional ministers would, going to hospitals for their parishioners, helping to guide people through difficult times. Most of the ones that are older and wiser and retired, they have a very difficult time with prayer because they will meet people in hospitals who, you get the local fanatic come in and say, just pray harder and everything will work out. And so the whole family prays and prays and prays and things just go terribly. And what does that do? That leaves the family wondering, well, gee, did I not pray hard enough? What did I do wrong? How could God have done this when I was told that if I was just right with God, that everything would work out? Whereas the family down the hall, where healing was going to happen anyway, they're told the same thing. And what happens? It works, just because it was going to anyway. And now they have this feeling that, well, gee, we did it right. I don't know what they did wrong. And so this whole cycle of guilt is perpetuated and superiority is perpetuated. I hope this makes sense what I'm trying to say here. So prayer for comfort, prayer for guidance, prayer for understanding, prayer for presence. In my mind, these are acceptable things to pray for because they will give you clarity and understanding and expand your consciousness. Prayer to save someone, something, to change something. Well, as the person who put this question forth mentioned, if God knows everything, if God is everything, it seems kind of petty that you have to beg this omnipresent, omniscient being to do something that it should do anyway. So if you reverse that a little bit, maybe it is doing what's meant to happen. And the best thing to do is to surrender to what is, to surrender to a higher will. And that is hard, and that is the challenge, but it's a direct way to spiritual awareness because you're giving up the notion of control. And that is the surest way to just turn that mind off. It's hard and the mind will scream against it, but eventually you do it long enough, the mind gets the message. And then you're able to see life as it is. Just like today when I was outside and I was looking around, I realized, wow, there is so much life here, but there's also so much death. dead things all over the place, green grass growing, dead things in the ground nourishing the newly growing vines. It's just a mixture in nature and in life. And there's a mixture in our own lives in this regard. So as far as prayer goes, I can remember when Melissa and I, towards the end, well, actually through her whole treatment process, we prayed together a lot. And many, many times there was a sense of peace, clarity, presence which descended. Even when she was sent home from the hospital to die, we would pray twice a day. And when we would do that, I would feel a presence. I would feel something, and she would too, this sense of peace, the sense of clarity, the sense of support. And so that was what was important, was the feeling, the acceptance of that support, of that clarity. It wasn't us begging to have someone's life spared. And it is my sense that by praying to be aware of that support, and whichever way life was going, that was where true grace came in. So you have to work out this whole bit from prayer yourself and realize that there's a lot to consider about it. And it's wonderful if your life goes fantastically and you blame it on prayer. But it's, in my experience, more likely that if your life goes fantastically, it was going to go that way anyway. You can pray for guidance. If there's a challenge in your life, how should I navigate this challenge? And that can be very helpful. That can be wonderfully helpful. But as far as the results of what happens within a challenge, that's not up to you. And that is the greatest spiritual challenge many people have to come up against. How can you do that? Well, we figure that out on our own.